Good afternoon, everybody. We're just waiting for a few more people to join. I can see people coming in from the lobby now, so thank you very much for your time today. Just give it 30 seconds more for everyone to finish their last meeting and get into the webinar. See a few more people coming in now. Thanks very much. Okay, let's get started. Welcome, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from. I'm calling in from Leeds here in Yorkshire in the UK, so please feel free to put where you're calling in from in the chat. Let us know where around the world we have viewers from today. My name's Mark Hudson. I'm the VP of Product Marketing here at eyko. And today's session is all about what is decision intelligence. Now, you may or may not have heard the term before, but you're likely to start to hear it a lot more, especially as now it's become a Gartner Magic Quadrant in its own right. Our aim today is to cut through the noise and try and give you a clear, practical understanding of what it actually means and how it's different from reporting and dashboards and business intelligence that you're probably already using throughout your organization. We'll have a Q&A at the end, so please feel free to drop questions in the chat as we go, or message me directly if you'd rather do that, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. So without further ado, let me hand over to Paul Sutton, co-founder here at eyko. Paul, the floor is yours.
Hi, Mark. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate the fact that people are busy and they take the time out of their day to come and join us. This is a subject that excites me. Now, you might say that that's particularly sad, but as a veteran of the reporting and analytics space in the Oracle ERP world for more years than I care to remember, it's been a long time since something new that's come along. If you think about it, you know, your reporting tools, your SQL-based reporting tools, they've been around for some time. And then if you think about the emergence of analytics, well, it was really sort of the balanced scorecard and sort of around 1992 that created the need for analytics and dashboards. And then since then, really, there hasn't been much innovation in this space. And we'd be firmly of the view that with the advent of AI and maybe the enabling technologies that exist in AI, that decision intelligence is going to give you the ability to change potentially how you work with data and how you use data, let's say, for decision-making purposes. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to step you through a number of slides just to understand some of the concepts around what is decision intelligence, why we think it's different to what there's been before. And then I'm actually going to go and show you, let's say at the end, and you know, maybe 5 to 10 minutes worth of software. We're actually going to use the eyko platform as the basis for showing it to you. It's not with a view to giving you a demo of eyko. It's to give you a sense of what life is like working with a decision intelligence platform and how it potentially changes how you work and operate within your company. So if I move through the slides, let's say as we move forward, if you think about it, what do we do today? We are veterans of the J.D. Edwards reporting space. Our previous company was Insight Software, and we had a Hubble, an Insight reporting type product. It astounded me to look at some of our customers and see people with hundreds and thousands of reports and lots of dashboards, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of organizations putting data into Excel and sharing it across the organization. A lot of this data was really just telling you what had happened. It did nothing to tell you anything else beyond that. So it's been a way that companies have worked and operated through that process. And especially when dashboards came along and the KPIs started to sort of surface and become visible to senior management, by making that information visible, it also created a whole series of questions. So typically when people sort of found something that maybe didn't quite make sense, somebody would be called up, a question would be asked, tell me what's going on behind this number, etc. And then for lots of organizations, that's sort of started a trail or a cascade of trying to pull data from different systems, maybe building pivot tables in Excel, creating a new report, trying to go and interrogate, let's say, the reason. And every question that came up had the same sort of trail in order to go and be able to pull it out. we think that this potentially can change. And we call this the decision gap, right? And what's really interesting around the decision gap in my mind is the amount of time it takes for a company when they identify something in their data that they don't like to be able to go and understand what has gone on and what has created that situation, and the elapsed time in order to be able to go and take action and make a decision around it. And our view is that if you can go and shorten that decision gap, yeah, you can get the benefit of that decision so much quicker, right? And that's that ability to be able to make that decision quicker. It gives you the ability to be able to capture the revenue earlier or to save the cost earlier and that sort of stuff. So what we're looking to try and do is to see what can we do to automate and speed up the decision gap. Lots of large companies, potentially, depending on your size and shape, might have an analyst team or a data scientist type team who will do this sort of investigation, let's say, for people. But maybe lots of companies don't have that within their organization. Or maybe there's even management within these companies who'd love to be able to go and answer these questions for themselves, but they just don't feel those tools are there. So the key for us is how can we use, this next level or the next version of technology in order to be able to speed up the pace by which we close the decision gap? Because our view is that, every day, every hour, every week, it takes an organization to be able to make the best possible decision possible. You're actually losing the benefit of that particular decision. So the other thing that's also is important, and this maybe is a limitation around, let's say, reports and dashboards, is that when you set out to build a report or a dashboard, you had a theory in mind, or you had something that you wanted to prove. And there was to some degree a bit of human bias in the creation of that report. I think I'm better than Mark or whatever else like that, and I go build and query data in order to be able to do that, right? And the problem is that if you think about your business at the moment, yeah, your ERP system is giving off lots and lots of signals. Your reports and dashboards are only tracking a fraction of those signals, right? So while these signals may be small, right, I'm running out of stock, or people are starting to sort of delay my payments, et cetera, all that sort of stuff. While they're effectively small, yeah, they may not be issues, but when they come together, they can potentially be problems. And one of the issues about existing reporting and analytics type infrastructure is because it's only tracking certain signals in your business, there's lots of stuff going on that you don't really see or don't surface until they actually become a problem, let's say, in their own right. So it's not just the ability to be able to go and look at, you're closing the decision gap. It's also to be able to understand what are you missing, let's say, in the data that potentially could be a problem, and to be able to deal with it before it becomes a problem. So why decision intelligence in our mind, and why now, right? I think one of the things that we learned from a previous life is that I'm old enough, my hair is a clue, right? But I'm old enough to understand that. And I remember when companies ran their entire business in an ERP system, enterprise resource planning, it had all the modules. What's happened over the last 10, 15 years is that best of breed products have come along, and you still have an ERP system, but you have a CRM system on the side, you have a HCM system on the side, et cetera, et cetera. So your business data now lives in a wider range of systems. These systems are disconnected. Your business's processes flow across those systems, let's say. So the ability to be able to or need to work in a multi-data source environment has become really critically important. The things about decision intelligence and its ability not just to be able to answer the what, but to be able to answer the why and the what next, is really, it was probably something that we feel people would have wanted to do all the time with their reporting and analytics tools, but the reporting and analytics tools weren't capable of doing it. The underlying technology wasn't there. So we now have maybe the emergence of a transformational type technology in AI, and park up for the minute as to whether you're AI friend or AI foe. Is it here to help you do your job? Is it here to take your job, et cetera, et cetera? And just think about the underlying technologies that exist, let's say, under the umbrella of AI. The ability to be able to parse large volumes of data and see insights and anomalies in that data without necessarily, beyond what a human brain could comprehend or what an eye could detect. I think there are people sort of saying, I would like a little bit of that in that context. the ability to be able to sort of look at this data and to project forward that based on what is my data telling me what might happen in the future, I think people are sort of like the idea of potentially finding a way to incorporate that capability into how they work and how they operate and how they make decisions. And then also the ability to be able to just ask questions of your data and get your answer back. So I think it's a combination of two things that have come together now that makes decision intelligence quite interesting. One is people always wanted to know, why do things happen and what could do next? It's just the existing reporting and dashboarding tools couldn't do it. But also, data has never been more fragmented. And we now have a technology, let's say, in some of these capabilities within AI to be able to go solve that problem. So what decision intelligence isn't, if that's not a hard thing to say for an Irishman, right? But it's not really another dashboard, right? Our belief will be is that companies effectively have too many reports and too many dashboards, yeah, and they don't necessarily answer the question of why did this happen, and what can I do next? What are the recommendations that I can do? So we're looking actually to try and help organizations rationalize the amount of reports and dashboards that we've built. In our previous life, we've come across customers with hundreds and thousands of reports and dashboards. We never thought people would have that level of real estate to have to manage and maintain. Decision intelligence isn't about dumping a piece of data into ChatGPT and sort of trying to get some analysis on it. It's not about trying to use AI to create commentary without really understanding it. And what probably more importantly, it's not about autonomous decision making. We're very much a believer of human in the loop. We're very much a believer of the whole purpose of a decision intelligence platform is to serve up information to the user or the decision maker or the person who's challenged with pulling the data together in an easy and usable form by which it can effectively accelerate the speed at which the decisions are made, and not just making decisions for decision's sake, making the right decisions as quickly as possible. So there's lots of sort of people sort of out there at the moment sort of playing around, let's say, with these AI type technologies around this, and it's critical to understand, let's say, for an enterprise class, enterprise scale type platform, yeah, you need to be able to sort of to do this in the right way in order to get the right results back. So what are the core components, let's say, of a decision intelligence platform? Should you ever decide that you need one? It needs to work across all your data. If we think about it just in the context of AI will come in lots of the technologies. So your JD Edwards will have an AI capability. Salesforce will have an AI capability. All these software tools, in order if they're going to stay in the market, will need to have AI within them. The problem is that their AI capability most likely will only work over the data that lives in that system. And what we all know and understand now is with this sort of fragmentation of ERP and this best of breed type approach, yeah, business processes run across these systems. So really what you need is a platform that can work across all your data and create what we would call universal AI that works across the process. The other thing that it's important in the decision intelligence platform is that it understands the system that it connects to, right? People on this call who run JD Edwards will understand it's quite an idiosyncratic system. Julian dates, decimal shiftings, lookups and joins, et cetera, Anybody who's tried to build a data warehousing project around JD Edwards data will have understood the challenges in doing all that, or any poor Power BI developer who tried to develop, let's say, dashboards over JD Edwards, if they don't understand the idiosyncrasies of the systems, would have found it hard. So in our mind is that the decision intelligence platform needs to be able to connect to these systems, be them cloud or on-premise or whatever else like that, and automatically understand how the system is being implemented and the idiosyncrasies of how all this data is all joined together. Otherwise, it just becomes another data warehousing project that takes months, doesn't deliver stuff. And everything about a DI platform is about speed, ease of use, and the ability to get faster the decisions that you need to make. And it needs to be looking for things that you're not looking for, right? So think of it, let's say, as radar or sonar, where it's scanning, let's say, the data across all your different systems, and it's trying to detect signals that at this point in time may not be problems, but if a combination of signals happen together could become a problem, let's say. And it's the sort of thing that, you're probably not capturing in an existing report or dashboard. What's probably most important is that it needs to explain the why. If you think about it in the decision gap, somebody something strikes somebody's attention. Somebody's tasked with going off and finding out what happened. It's quite a manual process in order to be able to do all that, right? What the platform needs to be able to do immediately is to serve up, this is what's happened, this is why it's happened, and also then make recommendations as to what you can do next. Right. So from that perspective, to be able to empower the decision maker of, make this is your next action. If you make that next action, this is likely what will come from it, et cetera, et cetera. The ultimate goal of a decision intelligence platform is to democratize data access, to make it so easy, effectively anybody will use it. So we understand that there are senior people in organizations who would like to be able to go and get into the data themselves. They just don't have the time to learn all the tools and the technologies in order to do it. But we also understand that there are companies with their structure where they've got teams of people who go and do this exercise as part of their job. The platform needs to work for both of those constituents, right? Because effectively, we believe that everybody in a business is a decision maker. Some people make big decisions, some people make small decisions. And really what you need a decision intelligence platform to be able to enable everybody to be able to make those decisions. And then finally, it needs to fit around your existing infrastructure or your existing, technology stack, right? So there'll be people out there who've spent a lot of money on reporting tools, as I say, built tens or thousands of reports, let's say, in order to control and manage their business. There'll be people out there who've gone and built extensive analytics or Power BI type environments in order to be able to go and visualize this data and present it to senior management and that sort of stuff. What's important about a decision intelligence platform, it's not looking to replace those types of technologies. It's looking to ask or solve the thing that they don't solve. Your reports and dashboards will tell you what's happened. They won't tell you why it's happened. They won't tell you what it can do next. And that's where sort of decision intelligence sits as a layer on top of your reporting or on top of your BI in order to be able to sort of fill that gap and reach that part, let's say, that those types of systems just couldn't do. And it's not because people didn't want it. It was because the underlying technology that they were built on just couldn't go that far. And now, as I say, with the advent of, let's say, some of these AI type technologies, it's now possible for people to make that step. So the goal effectively is to have a system that can sit within your business, that gives you the ability, that operates like radar or sonar, that can sit across all your mission critical type data. And it can sit there looking and detecting signals as to what's going on in the data. And it's easy enough for a user to be able to go in and just ask questions, and have the information delivered back to them in a usable form where they can go and then take action on that. So a very simple, have a look at this data and tell me in my business what I should worry about, are the things that I should be focusing on today, et cetera, et cetera. But the goal ultimately of a decision intelligence platform is, as I say, is to reduce the amount of time it takes for people to get from, I have a problem, I've identified a problem in my business, to being able to take the right course of action in order to be able to do that. And we feel that if we can close that gap, for some people, that might be hours if you've got lots of people. For some people, it could be days, it could be weeks, it could be months. But the goal of a decision intelligence platform is to close that gap as quickly as possible and give the organization the ability to monetize the benefit of that decision as quick as possible. So to save money for X number of days quicker, or to make money X number of days faster by being able to get to that point, etc. So the final thing before I jump into just sort of giving you, let's say, to step through some software as an example, is, effectively, how does it effectively work, right? As I say, what you'll see in a couple of seconds is the ability to be able to just go and parse large volumes of data and to be able to detect signals or things that are sort of happening in your business, that you may be not aware of. As I say, when you build your reports and dashboards, you have certain things or certain events or certain scenarios in your mind that you think you're going to happen, and you're going to query your data and structure your queries in order to surface up that information. But as I say, your ERP system is giving off signals all over it. Yeah, and when you factor into that, then the data and the signals that are happening in other systems that live around this system, yeah, it becomes really very difficult to keep on top of the things that might emerge or might become problems, but are no longer, they're not visible in your current reporting and BI type infrastructure. And the ability to be able to sort of tackle these things and get to them before they become a problem. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to flip over and we're going to go and look at, let's say, a conventional type dashboard and how that might work. And then I'm just going to sort of quickly roll into eyko and show you just how a day might work, let's say, if you were working within a decision intelligence platform. As I say, the goal here in this session is not to give you a demo of eyko. It's more to give you a sense of what working with a decision intelligence platform sort of feels like, let's say, from an end user point of view. So if you, let's say, look at from this point of view, this is, in my mind, a conventional dashboard, built in whatever tool, let's say, you might use. As I say, there's quite a lot of movement towards Power BI at the moment. Before it was ClickView, before it was Tableau, etc., etc. But just lots of, let's say, different tools out there in order to be able to do it. And in this scenario here, let's look at what it's surfacing up. So, up here at the top, we're looking at, it's basically saying that revenue is down for the month of June by a significant amount, by 12%. And, the immediate conclusion somebody might derive from that is that, June summer holidays sales took the month off, etc., etc. And that's a sort of semi-natural sort of conclusion that somebody might jump to when they look at this type of information. And then the dashboard can give you the ability to go look at it, etc., etc. But what you're also seeing is here, our age debt has increased quite significantly in the period, right? It's gone up by 38% in the same period. And in some cases, in some organizations, people may not even see those two numbers side by side on the dashboard. And equally, they could conclude, let's say, from looking at that type of information, that effectively the collections team have also gone on holidays in June, etc., etc., and we're just not collecting the money in the same way, right? But potentially, there could be something else happening in the business, yeah, that's actually creating these two signals, yeah, that are not interconnected in some shape or form. And typically, when people build their dashboards, yes, you have drill down and you can go and drill down and get more detail. Typically, sometimes it's hard to drill across systems, let's say. But your path is pretty much defined, let's say, within your hierarchy of what you've built in your reports and dashboards. And what happens when when the cause of the problem is beyond, let's say, the trail of the path there? Because if you look in this instance here, this dashboard has been built off a subsection of fields, let's say, within my system, and maybe to solve this particular problem, I need to have access, and I need to be parsing the data across a wider range of fields or tables or modules, let's say, within my ERP system. So this is typically the tools that people have available in order to solve this problem as it stands at the moment. So let me sort of jump over here and sort of bring you into effectively eyko. And as I said before, this isn't designed to be an eyko demo. It's more to give you a walkthrough of what a decision intelligence platform might feel like. So we've three concepts in here that sort of coexist with each other. So if you think about it, playbooks is that sonar. It's where I'm going to go and ask a high-level question across a data set, and it's going to surface some information back. A pulse then is almost like a monitor, where a playbook has identified a problem in my business, right? And the pulse is basically going to give you the ability to go and monitor that situation in more detail and get into the detail until such time as the problem goes away. And then conversations are really tools for senior management who want to keep track of the situation, yeah, and want to be able to go ask questions and get results and get answers back without necessarily having to always pick up the phone or trying to find out what's going on. So let me just start, let's say, with a playbook. So what we've really done in this example here is it's exactly the same data set that we used before, except we've widened it out to include more tables. So the dashboard that I built, right, had some predefined structure. Here, in creating this playbook in eyko, I just gave it a very simple question, and it's captured here in the subheading. June revenue fell by 12%, aged debt, over 20 days. Finance is treating these as two problems. I don't believe they're unrelated. Go explore. So we put that effectively in, yeah, and a decision intelligence platform will create this sort of playbook. So this is a new content type in our mind. It's almost like an executive report that people would go and provide after doing the analysis. This gets generated automatically, let's say, within the system. It starts here at the top and says, the two alarms are real, right? Yeah, but the common trigger is a component shortage, yeah, and a quality replacement event, and not a weakness in sales or whatever else like that. So yes, June sales did fall. Yes, collections, age debt did increase, right? But also the bit that maybe you wouldn't see in a conventional report or dashboard is the reason that happened was that 380 blocked orders, yeah, failed to be delivered. So we have a problem that's deeper, let's say, than effectively than what's showing up in both the sales number and we have a problem in our inventory and in our warehouse. So the playbook goes on to develop this even further. Yeah, it's basically saying that this pedal 2245 hit zero stock, yeah, halfway through June, and the net of connection, the net situation of all that is it affected a range of products over here, which meant these products couldn't be delivered, and effectively meant that the revenue couldn't be effectively collected. So if we look down here, it goes on and gives the evidence to support it. It's basically saying, the revenue movement, yeah, the current period, yes, it was down from the previous month, but it's also saying, what it proves. It's saying that the revenue alarm is just isolated. It's not systemic. It's just due to this one event. If we look down here at the bottom, it's saying the primary cause here is the supply failure, that effectively, we went out of stock, yeah, at a particular time in the month and effectively couldn't deliver. This is the sort of type of insight that you wouldn't get. That what's important in these sort of playbooks in our mind is it's the narrative. What is the story behind the numbers? Our belief is that if you understand the story behind the numbers, it gives you the confidence. It gives people the ability to interpret them better, but it also gives you the confidence in order to be able to make those decisions. It looks down here and gives me sort of the basis of the root cause. It's saying that it hit a zero level, let's say, and the alternative supplier didn't effectively kick in. And it gives you here the cascade of effectively how these sequence of events happened within the business in order to create this situation. And it even gives you some suggestions as to what you can do, let's say, around the remediation. And it's sort of saying to go and commit quickly, 33 grand in order to be able to go and accelerate, let's say, the pedals that you need in order to complete the products. And by doing that, you're going to get a 62.3x return on that money to unblock, let's say, the money that sits there that's just waiting for stuff to be delivered. It also goes so far as to say, this is what we ruled out as part of the analysis, right? So it gives you a sense of, no, it isn't a pricing problem. No, it isn't a collections problem. It is absolutely due to the fact that we ran out of stock. And then the conclusion at the end is, go spend this money, go rush the PO from that point of view, go get this product in. You need to sort out your 46-day lead time, because even if you had identified it, the lead time was probably too long in order for this not to happen anyway. And by doing that, effectively, you're going to unlock or free up this 2.1 million. So I think the essence of this is really the type of analysis that it gives you. If I take this then a step further, we go to effectively a pulse, and a pulse is effectively, this is the monitor. So this is where, if you see in a playbook is quite high level. Yeah. A monitor or a pulse is about getting into the detail a bit more. What this will look like is this maybe look like, prettier dashboards than you have at the moment, whatever else like that. But it's designed to do different things. It's designed to lean into the problem. We can look down here at the bottom and we can see, listen, we were always going to have a problem. Because our reorder point is at 998, etc., etc. we have a 45-day lead time or 46-day lead time. This was always going to be a potential problem in our business. What's probably most interesting and different about a pulse is the ability for it to be able to go and hit the discover, and be able to it will serve up both insights and actions around this data effectively. So in this example here, it's sort of telling you what you need to do, around your invoice collection, because I've clicked on the age debt effectively over here on the left-hand side, and it's giving you some suggestions to say that the top 2 customers hold 15% of the debt, and maybe the focus for the short term should be to go and lean into those 2 customers and sort that particular problem out. I'm conscious I'm sort of running on time, so the last thing I'm going to quickly jump to is the idea of conversation. So playbooks identify the problems, monitors give you the ability to be able to go and lean into that problem and drill into it, and then be able to track and trace progress until it's resolved. And then conversations are really designed for people to be able to come and just pick a data set in this example here, and be able to go ask questions. So ideally suited for senior management who basically just want to come and ask a question. And to be able to very simply come in and ask a question of that data. And think about this is asking question of data that'll come together from systems, not just your ERP system, but your CRM system and your HCM system, etc. And to be able to deliver up, let's say, actionable sort of status updates as to where things are and where things stand from a user's perspective. And it's saying that, Frontier Bikes is the biggest blocker. It has this amount. It's 11.1% of what's sort of outstanding at this point in time, and maybe you potentially need to lean into it. So what we've tried to do there is capture there is the idea of how you can use, let's say, a decision intelligence type platform, to take out the manual need to do this level of investigation that happens hour after hour, day after day, where you can leverage, let's say, some of the AI type technologies to surface up what's happening in your business, to be able to identify potential problems before they become problems, to be able to suggest actions and remedies. But that by itself isn't enough. You then need the ability to be able to hone in on the problem and to be able to monitor that through pulses, to be able to get to the bottom of really what's going on and to be able to track it and trace it. And then potentially use conversations as a communication tool to be able to keep people up to speed as to how things are progressing, and giving the ability to be able to go ask questions of the data and get their own answers back without necessarily having to get people to go write more reports and dashboards. And that in our mind is really the sort of what the world could look like, let's say, if people are prepared to sort of move beyond the limitations of their existing reporting and dashboarding tools and enter the world of decision intelligence. Mark?
Thank you, Paul. That was fantastic. And thank you, everyone, for attending today. I know we're pushed for time. We do have a couple of questions, Paul. I'm just going to fire them at you. I've got a question here that says, the example you just shown, is that a typical example, or is it more best case? They're saying, what does it look like on messier data?
I think the people have this thing about, around using these type of technologies, and they have this belief that, I need to get my data in the right shape before I can get this type of insight. The thing that's sort of what's different, let's say, about decision intelligence as opposed to BI or data warehousing, let's say, is that this is very much around what is my data telling me. Yeah. And what we encourage people to do is that, the idea of clean data is probably something that people need to give up on, because it's so fragmented at this point in time. It's hard to keep it all clean. So what's really powerful about these types of technologies is you can go feed it some data, get some insights, and it can tell you. You can then ask it as to whether it, what do I need to do to clean this data in order to get more insights, etc. So it's a different type of process, let's say. So I wouldn't worry about, not starting because I think my data's in a mess, etc., etc. I think you start with it, and this helps you understand what data you need to clean in order to get these types of insights.
Fantastic, excellent. Realistically, a question here. Realistically, how long does something like what you've shown take to stand up? and they particularly put not the sales version, the real one.
Yeah, yeah, not the sales version. So one of the ways that we sort of encourage people to start is to just start with feeding it with files. Yeah, so take some extracts from your systems. You have the ability to load those files in, and then you can start to just build some playbooks. So within a file, or using the file mechanism, yeah, within an hour, somebody like me, yeah, can go and build some playbooks off that data, right? And we encourage people to start there, right? Because these types of systems need to tell you something about your business you didn't know. And there's no point in doing all the work to find actually it doesn't give me anything new or doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form. So by starting with files, it's a really easy place for people to start. The next step then obviously is okay, this is great. I now want to go and connect it to my JD Edwards on-premise system, my Salesforce in the cloud, et cetera, et cetera. We've got over 200 connectors within the platform that make that really easy to do, right? But our view would be, don't even go through the pain of trying to do that to start with until you can see the value in this type of technology, yeah, over, let's say, just feeding it with files to start with, right? So taking the files approach, yeah, a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes to load, yeah, you're building a playbook in an hour. Then you're going to iterate and you're going to modify and tweak and tune and all that sort of stuff, right? But you're delivering content within a day easily, no problem at all.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And last one before we wrap, I'm probably asking the question that we're all thinking as well is, does this replace the data analysts or just change the way what they spend their time on?
I think it can do both. I think for companies who don't have a data analyst or a data scientist, maybe they don't need one. Yeah, maybe we're entering the world of citizen data scientists. For the companies who do have them, I'm going to say that the data scientists, 90% of their time is trying to pull the data together in order to make sense of it before they can do that. And what you're probably going to find is they're just going to be way more efficient, yeah, and add a lot more value than just being people who spend a lot of time just crunching data. So I think it works in both scenarios. If you have data scientists, they'll make them more efficient and more valuable. If you don't have them, maybe you don't need them.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for your time today, Paul. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us today. The full recording will be available at the end, probably within the next hour. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll see you all on the next one soon. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.